Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Group D podcast with our all about Counter-Strike ESL Pro League Season 13 Group D. I'm only kidding. This is the CSGO Clutch podcast. My name's Adam Cohn. I'm your host. And joining me as always, my co-host, my buddy, it's Dan Welch. Dan, how you doing on this Group C slate?
I'm doing good. My bracket isn't doing too good. But
Oh,
whatever.
brackets.
I just had to say it.
All right. I have to ask. How many brackets did you fill out? Did you do like a one? Did you do like a couple? How many brackets did you do for the NCAA March Madness tournament?
I have a total of 4.
Ooh, okay.
And 2 of them I picked probably 10 minutes before the lock. And the other 2, I barely put any time into it.
Gotcha.
So
Did you
I'm
also
getting what
pick
I deserve.
Ohio State? Like
I had
one of
Ohio
other
State
people?
winning the I had Ohio State winning the championship.
Oh boy.
So
Bracket
that one's
busted?
dead.
Yeah.
And another one I didn't have them going the distance, which is still alive. So
Yeah.
God willing.
I'm not one for a lot of college basketball, but I do enjoy filling out like one bracket and taking a look at some of the stats and seeing how, what colleges got there. Like, I'm not surprised to see Villanova, Illinois out of nowhere as a 1 seed. I'm like, really? It was just really surprising. Like Loyola Chicago, that I know they made noise a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
They
It's like
look
a 16 seed or
good.
something.
They look really good.
Mhm.
I watched that game today, and they're very smooth. Good team play, you know.
You know what? You know what wasn't smooth? Yesterday's
But
slate was not smooth. Oh, it was so not smooth.
no.
No. I mean, train wreck. Weirdness happened. Simple deciding he wants to go off for a bazillion points. It was just. I think I saw on like one of the discords that you and I are in. It's like, can someone tell Simple he can take a map off?
I saw that. That was funny.
So shout out to whoever said that. But like, all right, we'll get into the breakdown of the slate. Then we're gonna get a breakdown of the slate for March 20th. This is the winning lineup. All right. Congrats to Tommy Two Guns for the solo ship of a solo takedown of $10,000 with a very interesting lineup. I don't know if I would have come up with this lineup.
I wouldn't have. I can tell you right now.
I don't think I probably would have either. I mean, just like, let's examine before we get into the players. 2 Furia, a run back with someone on Team 1. That's interesting in and of itself. Simple, at 123 DK points. Yeah, 88, 16, 43, 13 first kills, 2 4Ks. Yeah, there's nothing else to say. Electronic, Dan, you said it yesterday. It's simple. It's electronic. That's who you play.
I did. If you can afford them, that's the key.
Yeah, of course. And then Axile, which after game 1, I'm like, yeah, Axile's probably going to be optimal. He was 65, 16, and 47. Now, I will say for what it's worth, I'm very surprised that not surprised, but we said yesterday that MIBR and Cloud9 could do upsets. Both came very close.
They did.
So you can see that clearly those two are going to be the wild cards in this bracket. Ultimately, Cloud9 and MIBR ended up losing to Gambit and Navi, but those were some fun games. But so the winning lineup, Dan. All right, are you sitting down?
Yeah, I am sitting down.
All right, Captain Vinny, 1 Tommy Two Guns, $10,000.
Good for him.
Tommy Two Guns, send Vinny some flowers, a thank you card. He didn't even get to play in Vinferno. Vinny didn't even get to play Vinferno and won someone $10,000. Send Vinny a thank you card. in all honesty, Vinny looked really good. I was very impressed. Vinny looked really, really good. Excuse me. All right, you called it. Great call by you. Art ended up 44 kills, 13 assists, 43 deaths, 15 first kills. He had an ace and a 1v2 clutch. 71 DK points at 7,400. You love to see it. Again,
Yep.
simple electronic. You needed simple to win any money. But
Yeah, definitely.
to what you and I discussed yesterday about salary, look at the ownership on him compared to Azairo.
I think it's high.
52,
Oh my god,
52.5%. We said
that's
yesterday on this
crazy.
pod that if you were going to fit simple, you can't play some of the other expensive guys. There wasn't enough correlated value to make a decent lineup. Right? Like, didn't we plug simple in cap? Didn't we had like sub 7,000 per player? And it became
Yeah,
very hard to fill anything without looking like total garbage.
yeah, that was kind of the moral of our story on the first one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Exile, no surprise. He's the 2A, 2B, however you want to call it, between him and Hobbit on Gambit. 77 DK points. He was 65, 16, and 47. I'm okay with that. Here's the interesting one. I've saved it for last. Pesiato. 37, 13, and 40 with the 4K. He had 50.5 DK points at 8.9%. I would never correlate, and I talked about this yesterday. You talked about it too. The only time I break a rule for a run back is Zywoo or Simple. If I'm playing the opposite team, like he played 2 Furia, running it back from someone from Team 1, that was something. I don't think I would have ever run it back with a Team 1 ever.
No, I mean it purely like if you really wanted to fit the other guys, then it makes sense just because of the price savings. But I would have thought that there's someone else that he could have picked from that would have been a better choice because the risk of Pesadeo doing or the I guess the possibility that he did this are pretty low. So this guy must have had a bunch of brackets or
You is all
lineups.
about the college basketball right now, aren't you?
Yeah,
Listen, he can have as many brackets as he wants with $10,000. All right.
yeah,
uh, but anyway, like again, 2 Furia and a Team 1. I'm happy for Tommy Two Guns. $10,000. It looks like it was either maybe he had multiple lineups, maybe it was his first lineup. I wouldn't. It's not a correlated lineup that will usually win you a GPP. It happens clearly. We're not saying to not do it, but just if you want a better chance of cashing and trying to win, it's not the optimal correlation, is what we're saying, right?
right. Agreed.
Um, is there anything looking back on yesterday's slate that now that we're through it that you may have done differently, besides the obvious of make sure you shove simple into your lineup?
That's a good question. I think I gave a little bit too much credit to Cloud9, and thought almost anybody on the cheaper side could have done okay, or at least gotten enough to fit simple. And well, Yuri was a bad call. Well, I mean,
I wouldn't say it's a
looking
bad call.
back, only in hindsight, it's a bad call. Just because,
That's fair. In hindsight, hindsight being 2020 what it is, but talk to me about Yuri and the rest of Furia, because I was right there with you on Yuri.
yeah, Yuri, I'm up and down with him, and I can't seem to get him right. So I thought yesterday was just the right spot because of Train, and they did get Train, so I was excited about that. And then when I think Vinny just took all the kills,
Yeah.
Vinny and Art.
I mean, again, Vinny looked good. He looked really good. He was playing some really good Counter Strike. If that's the Vinny we're gonna see out of him, outside of his favorite map of Inferno, this Furia team could be very, very dangerous in
Oh yeah,
2021 and going forward if this is the roster they're gonna have.
yeah, with
Everyone was
Junior
just
too.
clicking. Yeah, look, props to Junior. Looked phenomenal. That team, to be honest, no disrespect to Henny, they didn't look like they missed him. Junior slotted right in and looked amazing. Again, it was against Team 1. We'll see what he does against Simple. We'll see what he does against Shiro. We'll see what he does against, some of the other operas. And if they make the playoffs, we'll see what he does. But he was putting on a clinic. Some of those op shots, they were things of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, he's very good.
yeah. Is there anything else taking away from me? The Tommy Two Guns 10K lap. I'm so happy that's. I'm happy for anyone that wins money. Anyone that could take it down solo ship like this. Congratulations, that's huge. We're just talking about how do we become better DFS players at CS:GO DFS? Optimally, this isn't the optimal, but as you can see, it happens. So if you want to take a random shot, it can hit. Just optimally, it's probably not for a long-term success. That makes sense?
Yeah, there's no way this guy had one. This was one bracket. I did it again. Oh. Holy shit, dude! What is wrong with me?
I am just gonna upload it as the NCAA bracket podcast for Counter Strike.
Oh, lineup is it? This has got to be his only, or this can't be his only lineup. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I mean,
but maybe it is.
Maybe, and I mean, sometimes crazy lineups hit. And from again looking at this from an optimal, how do we get better as DFS players standpoint? Over the long run, I don't think this strategy would pay off. It can pay off multiple times. Again, totally happy for him, but we all want to try getting better. We want to evaluate our lineup, see what we went wrong, and try to improve. What I take away from this is this looked like how those games went down. Confusing. Yeah. Players went off that we didn't see coming. And it happens. We take it, we move on. Speaking of taking it and moving on, again, congrats to Tommy Two Guns. Very, very awesome. Now, moving on to today's slate, we start off with Gambit versus Cloud9. Thank you, DK. Work with me here. Gambit versus Cloud9. And for the folks listening, I haven't had a chance to look at pricing yet. Shiro at $10,000 and higher priced than Simple. And look, Cello's at 9,200. Oh, we're gonna get to that game later. I feel like I'm gonna tear DK for that pricing. All right, talk to me about Gambit, Dan, and what stands out to you from this team, either from what you saw today, or what stands out to you from a pricing standpoint? How do you want to approach Gambit today?
So unfortunately, I did not catch any of this match or their match yesterday. But I do like Shiro. I know I didn't really like him yesterday, but I do like him today because of maybe his ownership will go. People will overlook him or go to Simple and I just think that it's a good matchup for him to go off because he's going to have to step up. They're not going to just crush Cloud9. Mm-hmm. He is going to have to come through on some in some rounds.
Anyone else on Gambit you like besides Shiro? I mean, your point about ownership is valid because if we just take a look at this from an overall standpoint, with Simple being 9,600 and Shiro being 10,000, you would have to think that people are probably going to gravitate towards a cheaper Simple. And if recency bias, I believe, is a thing. I know I'm guilty of it from time to time. 123-point performance, second highest priced player on the slate. Shiro could be the leverage we need in GPPs.
Yep.
Okay, talk to me about the rest.
And Navi's got a tough matchup. Sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. That's gonna be a fun one. Yep. Talk to me though about the rest of Gambit. We knew Axile was optimal. Hobbit's sitting there at 9,000, Axile at 86. What do you think about the rest of this roster?
Yeah, Hobbit and Axile are pretty much the only guys that I would go to, but those prices are a little bit high. I mean, Inters can, he'll have a match every 10 matches he'll go off. And Nafani, I don't really follow that much. So, but
So
I
Nafani,
mean,
I believe, is the IGL for this. And let me
uh,
interest you in a little bit of Nafani to your point.
okay.
He looked optimal through 2 maps today. He looked very optimal. And he never ended up on the optimal. He looked really, really good. Now, he almost kind of reminds me of an Art in a way. He's an aggressive IGL. But he was hitting shots. What did he end up with?
For a scoreline or for a
Fi-
ratio?
he was 58, 19, and 54. 64 DK points at 7,800. He got an $800 decrease.
Hmm,
Um,
that's
is,
odd.
is that something you're interested in? Like, would you like? Let's say you're playing Shiro, and would you stack Shiro with a Nafani?
Um, TBD, Adam. I think it's going to depend on some other plays
Oh,
and. But
for sure, for sure.
so yeah, right now, as of right now, yeah. I mean, I would consider it, but I think if I was going to go after anybody, it would be Inters, just
Okay,
because I'm not a big IGL player.
that's
Um,
totally fair. I mean, obviously, let's take a blame out for Arcady when we know they're a high fragging IGL, right? Like Inters, he's okay. Those points don't exactly wow me. Like he's had what 43 points, 93 points. But again, that 93 points was also a best of 5. 57, 54, 63. I like
yep,
that. 44, 47. And then you get into the Vulcan stuff, which is completely different. Like DreamHack, okay, 95 against Complexity. You had 61 against Cloud9. So like you said, once every couple of maps he can get there. 6,200.
yep.
That's totally fine. Now, for me, for Gambit, and we'll try speeding this along here, is everyone minus Inters is in play for me. I also wouldn't mind in a large field GPP going with the Hobbit Nafani stack, or Exile Nafani, if you want to get different off Shiro. Well, I'm not going to say Shiro is a core play for me. He's absolutely a GPP play for me on this slate. To every point that
Yeah.
you mentioned about him. Um, Now, on the flip side of this, I think Cloud9 can get their first win against Gambit. They
Hmm.
looked they looked so much better as a team against Navi. And again, it's was Simple Day, Electronic, and then way on the other side it was the other three that were trying to catch up. Um, and it's not all about the stats in Counter Strike. It's about setting you. It's about the teamwork. So if people are going in there taking the first frag, but someone trades them out, that's an okay strategy. And if it sets your team up for success, great.
Yeah.
Cloud9, the highest priced player is Messi at 7,200. Zeppa, after the day he had today, is $5,800. Essa tags at 46. Alex is 4,000. The three best players that looked good in today's slate are the three cheapest on the slate. What do you like about Cloud9?
Um. So I know a lot of people don't do this, but I am predicting that we'll get Overpass and Inferno, and I actually like Floppy because he does come through on Overpass. But I mean the pricing is crazy for these guys because they are totally underpriced, and Esatag was like the standout performer today. So I would think that S-Tag is going to be chalky and maybe even Zeppa because he's kind of a recognizable name, which is why I like Floppy. Um, yeah, and even 6600 might be a little bit much for against Gambit, but I think that's where I would fall if it was a one off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I was stacking them, I would go Zeppa, Esatag, Floppy, Alex, Zeppa, Esatag, some combination like that. Because I do think that they could win.
I agree.
I agree with you with that.
Yeah. My goodness, S attack looked really good on the op today. He looked smooth on the op. There were a couple times where he struggled to hit a couple of shots, but again, it's not like he was always an opper. Like he's being asked to take up a new role, and it's interesting. Listen, you and I could debate on Floppy and this kid's ceiling. We saw it on the old Cloud9 roster with him. He can have massive days, and he has the talent. So,
Yep.
m- honestly, my favorite three is Zeppa, Esatag, and Alex. Now, I will say this. Let's try and review what happened today. A run back with a Team 1 player won Tommy Two Guns $10,000. A run back with Cloud9 might win someone a GPP. Based on salary, 5,800 for Zeppa, 4,600 for S Tag, 4,000 for Alex. If you can fit in a
Yeah, that's
Shiro,
crazy.
you can fit in a Cello, you can fit in a Simple, you can fit in an Electronic, you can fit in a Yuri, you can fit in maybe another stud that goes off, and one of these cheap guys that we're not saying are garbage players. And maybe this is some leverage that maybe we can take advantage of as DFS players and realize the talent of these guys are too cheap and might still be able to pay off if they even get to like 3 maps or even just do well in a loss. Might be a way to look at it, but while I wouldn't recommend it, it wouldn't surprise me if one of those bottom three are in a winning lineup.
Not at all. I actually kind of like the pricing now that I think about it a little bit more because you almost like you have to stack some expensive guys with cheap guys rather than try to figure out all the middle of the road,
Mm-hmm.
as far as pricing is concerned, and try to fit them all in the right spots where you can just pick one cheap guy and pick Shiro and pick one cheap guy and pick Simple, and it makes it a little bit easier to decide.
Yep.
So,
Cool.
yeah, I'm with
Cool.
you.
I think we spent way more enough time on this game than we needed to, but these games are definitely closer for sure, and we need to do our research. We need to talk it out. We need to figure out where the plays are. The next game is the best on the slate. Navi versus Furia. I'm excited to watch the game. The pricing is very interesting. Talk to me about Navi and then Furia, and what are you doing on this slate? And let me point out, Bit is included on the Navi side. They put him in the player pool.
I'm so confused. I thought they disallowed the subbing.
I have no idea what's going on. I'm sure there's an article somewhere about it. They're just rules that Valve implemented earlier in the year, and quite frankly, I don't know enough to speak to it. But
Okay.
it's not like Bit played every map. He played one map. When we saw Bubsky with Astralis, it was one map. When Team Vitality did it, it was multiple maps. I don't know if maybe that had something to do with it because it was fluid throughout multiple maps. I'm not quite sure. But we have 6 players on Navi in the player pool. What are we doing?
Yeah, I'll just go back to the same well as yesterday. Simple electronic perfecto. Although I'm a little, electronic can underperform, and because Furia is so strong, I think he will struggle tomorrow. And perfecto, it's not the greatest matchup for him, but he's cheaper than electronic, and I think he can outperform electronic in a tight matchup. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna I'm gonna stay away from electronic. And if anything, if I was stacking, I would go for perfecto. But I don't think that I would stack Navi tomorrow. So just
Okay.
gonna say that right now.
So you're kind of on the same boat that I was thinking of. I was just listening to you talk, and the more I listen to you talk about these guys, and then I think about the matchup, I think of the style of gameplay that Furia play. So for the listeners out there, you can play different forms of Counter Strike. You have, let's say for example, a team like OG. To me, they're like the perfect balanced roster. They can give you fits on defense, and they can execute on offense in ways that give you fits. They're a nice balanced team. Maybe a little bit more passive than aggressive. Furia is aggressive.
Yeah,
I wonder if just that style of gameplay is gonna be trouble for Navi.
I think it will be.
I mean, you can't ask Simple to 1v5 clutch every single time. And we're not saying
Right.
like that. And we're not saying that's the case either. I think Furia win this matchup. I think they could win it 2-0. I think they win 2-1. 2-0 isn't out of the question.
Nope,
All right,
not at all.
so talking about the Furia seconds, I agree with you. For me, it's simple. Maybe, excuse me, maybe a little bit of electronic. And I'm not playing anyone else, especially from what I watched of the game or had it on like just from what I saw. Perfecto looked bad, Boomage looked bad, Flamey looked bad, Bit looked okay, but Bit played one map. That's not going to win you a GPP. And if Bit doesn't play, he scores you 0. So just be aware there is a sub risk. Bit for Flamey, I would avoid both of them.
Yeah. I mean, just in case anyone doesn't know that, I definitely stay away from Flamey or Bit unless you're doing an MME and think that it could pay off.
Yep,
But I mean, it's almost like, yeah, they're for me they're definitely not in play.
yep. What about?
Furia, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, same, kind of the same old for me. Although I don't know that Art is able to be as aggressive as he wants to be and still succeed. I think some of the other guys are going to have to step up. So Caserado and Yuri, I hate to do it, but I think they're going to be the two that really have to, if they do sweep. Those are the two that'll have to perform
Yep.
at a high level.
Okay.
And I don't, and I think they can. So
Yeah. What would it surprise you of me to say that I think Caserado is the highest performer from Furia for the team?
Uh, would that surprise me?
Yep.
No, not at all. I mean, he's good. He's very good.
My bold prediction: Captain Caserado wins someone a GPP.
I like it.
There's just something about him. He's not super aggressive like Art, and Navi are gonna exploit super aggressive pushes, in my opinion. They are so disciplined. If Art wants to try any of his sneaky peeky aggressive stuff, I don't think it's gonna work. I think if all five Furia are aggressive and not just like insanely push quickly, but if they really do this the right way, I think Caserado ends up winning. He's more of that like he's in the middle between passive and aggressive. He's like that perfect balance of player or style. And I think he ends up winning someone at GPP. I think he's the highest performer from Furia. Junior is $5,600.
What?
He's getting the simple discount.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Vinny, all right, Vinny's 4,400.
You got to play Vinny then, because they're definitely going to get Inferno. I mean, if you want to go with the Vinferno,
I think we
um,
see Nuke, Inferno, maybe Mirage is the decider, maybe Overpass is the decider. I think at the very least we probably see Navi pick Nuke, Furia pick Inferno. Furia might end up picking Mirage. We could see Inferno as a decider. I just think it'll be very interesting to see what we see for the decider map. Vinny at 4,400. Look, folks, if you play at MME, you absolutely get some Vinny exposure at $4,400. That's just
yeah.
silly. After what we saw from him today and how good he looked, you get some Vinny exposure at 4,400. And absolutely, you get some junior exposure at 5,600. Yes, it's against Simple, but I really hate to say this, but as weak as Perfecto Boomage Flamey looked, Junior's gonna exploit that. He's that good.
And I mean, for anybody that doesn't know, like just because they're the opposing opera doesn't mean that there's somehow have an impact on each other's score. Like it's
Correct.
still, it's still they're still kind of independent as far as scoring is concerned of the
Yep.
other opera. So
It, it's more a personal rule that I try not playing operas against Zyro and Simple, and
right,
even sometimes Device. Um, just because they're so good. Sometimes when you're opping, like as oppas, you kind of get used to some of the main lines. For example, like on Nuke, if Simple is hiding out in garage and Junior's gonna come around crates on the outside, and Simple already has that line first, and Junior makes any kind of mistake, Simple's gonna get him because he's that good. And I mean, like Junior on the other side may not have time to exploit Simple's line of sight. It's just using a sniper rifle is very different than using a rifle because you're sometimes looking for more lines of sight and things like that. But it's just more like if I'm playing Simple in my lineup, maybe I don't play Junior, or if it fits, I make it work. But yeah, they're not they're independent of each other. But Zywu and Simple obviously on another level. So is Device to a point too. I just try and when it comes to those special players, I just sometimes try to avoid it. More of a personal opinion. Everyone from Furia is in play to me, including Art. I think Furia end up winning this matchup.
Certainly hope so.
Yep, this last game is probably not going to take too long, folks. With all
Yeah.
due respect to Team One and MIBR, um, I don't.
Cello.
Cello's $9,200. Wow. I do believe Cello's the opera for this team, right?
Uh, yeah, I think so. I'm laughing because I'm not sure, but I think you're right.
We're just gonna go here to hltv.org.
Yeah. I was
We
trying to
will
get there before you would ask me.
look at you. All right, I'll tell you what. Let's find out. Let's go top tier. Let's go event, Pro League, MIBR Team One. Let's go Team One. Sorry, MIBR. Cello. Stats. Weapons. AK. No, he's not the Opper. Who's the Opper?
Shit. I think Yell op sometimes, and potentially they might switch it up. So
Yell's the Opper.
yeah, okay.
Whatever. I mean, Cello looked really good for what it's worth. He played really, really good. I mean, he was 6,400, 55, 11, 60, 15 first frags, a 1v2 clutch, a 4K, and a 5K, and only had 50, 60K points, which I find interesting.
Wow.
That's really
Yeah, that
interesting
is
to me.
kind of.
I mean, from maybe it was the map I saw a little bit of. He just looked really good. Um, I think you have to get this game right to also win a slate,
Oh yeah,
or
definitely.
to win this slate. Talk to me about Team 1 and MIBR. Team 1's pricing is very interesting to me. Um, talk to me about them, and we'll, like I said, there's not really much to talk about here, other than this is
Yeah,
going to have to be taking dart throws, in my opinion.
Unfortunately, yeah, I'm not too up to speed on Team One or MIBR. Um, I feel like it's kind of another whack a mole where you just pick somebody that's got decent stats and hope that they come through because there's no rhyme or reason for when these guys do good. Maybe avoid the expensive guys just because of that volatility. But Yell at 6,400, I think that's actually very appealing because he can come through, and I've actually played him in the past. And but at the same time, Team One, they could win this and
I agree.
flip everything.
I think overall MIBR are the stronger team. As
Yeah, definitely.
as crazy as that is to say, I just think MIBR are the stronger team. And I'm not saying based on name recognition. This isn't the old MIBR team that had KNGV and all the other old players like Fallen and Fur and Taco and everyone else that was on the team. We're not saying that. This core four squadron of Boom were really good.
Hmm.
They've taken it up to the next level. And I think they've kind of catapulted Team 1 in a way. I mean, I don't know why Team 1 let Barton go. Maybe Barton wanted the release. I don't remember what the exact reason was, but Barton was their best player. And it wasn't close.
Yep.
Alright, so for the folks out there, Yell is the opera for MIBR. Maluki is the opera for Team 1. Maluki actually looked good.
That's a cheap price too. I mean,
For 5,000 for Maluki, 6,400 for Yell. I will say this, Dan. You can tell me if I'm crazy, and we're gonna get into a slate recap here. Um, and we're gonna wrap this up very shortly. Would it be crazy to think that you can have 0 to 1 from this game and still take down a GPP? Because my gut
uh,
says you could possibly outright fade this game, go 3-3 or 3-2-1 from the first two games, go crazy, and win a GPP.
yeah, of course that's a possibility. I mean, it's a probability. I would think some greater than 50% chance of it happening. I mean, there's just yeah it yeah. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Yeah.
So, this MIBR roster and this Team 1 roster are somewhat relatively new to the Tier 1 scene. We don't see them as often. Like, we've seen this Team 1 roster more than we have this MIBR Boom roster. But still, it's like, you still really never knew who to play. It was more difficult. So I would say take your shots on this game. It would not surprise me in the least if a 3-3 won this tournament tomorrow from the first two games. If I was playing anyone on either of these teams, Cello, Cello, SHZ, and Bolts are my favorite three from MIBR. Um, Malbs, Maluki, Pesiato, PRT for Team 1. And it's just pick whoever fits and pick whoever you think can do well. I have a really good
Yeah.
feeling about Cello on this slate for what it's worth. At that crazy price tag, he should be unowned.
Yeah.
All right,
So I'm gonna piggyback on what you just said, and
go for it.
I really do feel like I really do feel like they're at kind of a jam spot where you have just enough to jam one of them in, so you pick one.
Yeah,
Um, and that's kind of the my will be my. I mean, I'm only doing single entry, so I probably
you're
won't be
probably not
jamming
going that route.
any of them. Yeah,
Right, but
yeah,
like, so someone for me, like, I like playing the large field GPP, so from my perspective, I don't mind taking that shot. Like, if I decide not to play Shiro, maybe I want to go Simpo, Cello, Hobbit, Nafani, and then fill in some of the rest. I don't mind taking a shot like that because I'm trying to beat 2,000 plus other people in a group where there are only so many players. It's a 3-game slate. You have to take shots. But for single entry, yeah, maybe you're playing it a little bit more on the safer side. With that being said, give me a core value in a GPP play.
Core, I'm gonna go with. Oh man, I hate to say it, but simple.
Yeah, that's fair. Especially after what we
Uh,
saw out of him. I just wouldn't expect 80 plus kills.
that's insane.
80 plus frags was it was a clinic. It was
I'm
like
no
he was
longer
playing aimbots.
impressed.
I'm no longer impressed. Simple, do more to impress Dan.
I mean,
90
like, what
frags
else?
tomorrow. 90 frags.
What else can he do? I
90
mean,
frags.
okay, nine. Yeah, you're right.
All right, so Simple's a core play for you. Who's your favorite value play on the slate?
I'm gonna go with Junior.
I like
I know
it.
he's the opposing opper, but as we just kind of broke it down, I don't think that always is, has a big
Mm-hmm.
predictor of how the other opper will do. And for GPP, I'm gonna go back to Yuri,
I like it.
meaning this is for GPP only, meaning there's I would say a low probability of him really coming, hitting value. So
You're, you're aiming for the
I'll just
ceiling.
stop. Yeah, yeah.
All right, my core play is I don't really. You know what? I'm gonna double down on my. See that Dan, this is sometimes where writing a blog post is easier because I've had time to think about these plays, and sometimes they're not as obvious. I don't think I have a core play.
No core.
I don't think there's someone I absolutely have to have. If there was anything that's as sure of a core play, it's simple. But I feel like that's ridiculously chalky. I don't want to go so far as saying Shiro's a lock, not after what I saw out of Cloud9 today. I don't have a core play.
Hmm.
I have more GPP plays. The closest I can get to a core is Quesarado.
Okay.
Well, I'm not going to
I
go as
like that
far.
one.
Well, I'm not going to go as far as say he's an absolute core play. He's my favorite GPP high ceiling play on the slate, and that says a lot. So I'm going to approach it like that. My favorite value play, yeah, I agree with you. Junior 5600 is way too cheap. Um, Essa tag at 4600.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Maluki at 5000. Vinny at Vinny at 4400.
Yeah, that's a little ridiculous.
Listen, I understand we've had Vinny this dirt cheap before. No, that no. My again GPP play. I've kind of said it. It's Quesarado. I just have a feeling about it. I can't name him a core play, but he's my favorite high ceiling GPP play on the slate. And if you want a second GPP play, you and I talked about it. Shiro at 10,000 is more expensive than Simple. He's probably going to be lower owned than Simple, especially if you include any kind of recency bias after the insane ceiling performance he had on this past slate. I think Shiro might be some of the biggest leverage on the slate in terms of ownership off Simple. Not saying you can't play them together, but 19,600 is going to make things very difficult to fit in the rest of your lineups. But as we saw, Cloud9 is dirt cheap, Team 1 is dirt cheap, some MIBR are dirt cheap, the Furia players are dirt cheap. You can make it work, but it's just very different. Favorite team stack and a bold prediction.
Favorite team stack? I'm actually going to go with Furia again. Um, and bold prediction will be Esatag is top fragger for the day.
I like it. I've given my bold prediction already. Captain Case Serrato is going to win someone a large field GPP tomorrow. My favorite team stack, I do agree with you, is Furia. And just for the fun of it, Dan,
Mm-hmm.
let's go take a look at the pinnacle odds because I'm very curious about this.
Yeah.
If we had over here the leagues and we had the pro league, I'm very interested to see who the favorites are. All right, so Gambit minus 351 favorite against Cloud9. I get it. Navi are a minus 282 favorite against Furia. I'm loading up on Furia at that right there. That's insane.
Yeah.
And again, MIBR minus 257 over Team 1. I would think that should be closer. But that's really interesting. I do think MIBR win that one for what it's worth. Any last minute thoughts on this slate? I know we've gone a little longer than you and I had originally anticipated, but give
We
me
usually do.
well, like there was a lot to break down in that first and second game.
Yeah, you're right. Any
Any
final thought?
final thoughts on the slate?
That I hope Pat wins $10,000 or 5,000 tomorrow. He'll understand if he listens to this.
There you go. All right. Final thoughts will be on the slate. Like I said, I think Shiro's going to have way little ownership than Simple. I could be wrong. I think Cello is also very viable as a GPP play. It's going to be a great day of games. Enjoy your Saturday, everybody. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Really helps us out. You know when these podcasts drop immediately. And leave a comment down below. Let us know what you like, don't like, you want to see improved. We're here to help you all out. For Dan, I'm Adam. You can find us on Twitter at Wandelch, at AdamWX21. Good luck on the slate. Latest, peoples.